Right, now back in the garage, looking at the engine harness. This is the plug that we've been looking at the other half of, if you like. But it now appears, having studied the wiring diagrams in more detail, that these two plugs are likely the ones that are, if you like, missing, in as much as powering, providing electrical power to the whole system isn't coming via another one of these plugs. In fact, more likely it's going to those other two plugs as were. We haven't got those anymore, but anyway, there were two other plugs. And electrical power is like enough going to them via the ECU rather than the reverse. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but the point is that these two plugs are required. They are Molex plugs, and they plugged into the car relay box or stroke fuse box with lots of relays in it, and that's what these two plugs are. So what I need to do, in addition to wiring up the big plug here, is to wire up these two plugs as well. So yeah, slightly more complicated than I'd hoped, I suppose, because we're wiring up three plugs onto the harness rather than just one. But I think we're going to carry on that basis. So what's the other thing that's emerged? The question that has emerged regarding this thing being the throttle body, and there's a cylindrical shape which is the motor, and there's a big square bit under there which has probably got some sort of circuit board in it, and over here we have a throttle position sensor. So there's quite a few pins there that need to be sorted out. The throttle position sensor, not a problem, but there is quite a lot of pins on this. 12 in fact. Now it looks like only some of those are used, and in particular it looks like there's 3 pins that may be responsible for the control aspect of the connecting to the throttle and so on. So that's what I'm working on at this moment. What else can I say? I have actually fitted I'm looking around for a torch. Here we go. Here's a torch. I have actually fitted a throttle pedal. Let me show you that. Now, funnily enough, it's not a Jaguar one. I chose one actually from an Audi. Why did I choose that? It's because the pedal itself made of metal, and I wanted to be able to change its shape, which I have done, shortening it, moving it and so on, which you couldn't do if it was plastic. So anyway, it's actually bolted in the car, which I'll see if I can show you. There's a bit of a mess down here in the footwell, so I can just move my dangling fuse boxes out of the way. There we have a full set of pedals, with the throttle pedal of course on the right, and that is the Audi A3, A4 I believe pedal, which is just about right. I did some bracketry up here to fix it onto the footwell, and there we are. Now if it turns out to be not quite right from a comfort point of view, I can cut this metal section and re-weld it again. I think that's probably the easiest way. It's already been modified, so I just modify it a bit further. But I also have the plug, and these wires here are the 6 of them, and the way these things work is potentiometer, which normally has 3 wires on it, but it's duplicated. So there's 2 times 3 wires. And that will in due course go over to where the ECU is, which will be behind the dashboard over here. So that's the plan. And it's kind of getting there, but there is some uncertainty yet to be sorted out. I recently posted a link to a video showing how to dismantle electrical connectors for mainly Fords, I think it was. And of course this engine, the AJ30 Jaguar engine, is in reality it's a Ford engine, the Ford Duratec V6 with some changes on the inlet and so on. So therefore these connectors here are all Ford connectors. And indeed the ECU one, this is the important one in many ways, is extremely similar to ones on a Ford Zetec engine ECU. So, or engine harness that goes to the ECU, I should say. Yeah, so it's a Ford design, I think. And I was wanting to, because it turns out that not only do I need to connect the ECU plug, but also these ones, which appear to be connected to the fuse box in the original Jaguar. And I'm unclear whether the other half of this plug even exists, because without having the fuse box to look at, I think that it may well be a moulded in thing on the body of the fuse box, which normally sits around here in the engine bay on the Jaguar S Type. So having been unable to find a mating plug to go on this, I looked to see if I could identify what this plug actually is, and it does look very much like a Molex connector. So I was looking for the mating half to go on, and I actually bought a pair of Molex connectors. This is 8-pin, this is 12-pin, to suit, as I thought, but it turns out they're just a little bit smaller. So those ones are called motorcycle connectors. I think they use on Harley Davidsons and things. They are Molex connectors as far as I know, but they're not quite the same, just a little bit smaller. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll de-pin this connector, these connectors, take the pins out and reuse the same pins in the same arrangement on the miniature or slightly smaller Molex connectors. So that's what I'm planning to do. Now, the first step, and if you remember, if you looked at that video, to being able to remove these pins, is it seems that the first thing to do is remove the differently coloured bit which sits inside here, because it's that locks the pins in place. That's how they appear. But unlike those other plugs which were shown in the video, there didn't appear to be anywhere you can stick a screwdriver in or anything like that to release this coloured or white piece. However, what it does have, as you can see, is a lip. Both of them have it, and it is possible to prise that up and grab hold of it with a pointy-nosed pliers and just give it a good yank. And that's what I did. And after a little bit of a struggle, I've pulled both of these out. There may be a better way of releasing these, I don't know, but anyway, it seems to have done the job. And the important thing is that I should now be able to remove the pins and then reinsert those pins into the small, slightly smaller Molex connector, and then move on from there with a flying lead, as it were, to be able to connect up to the fuse box and so on. So, having removed the locking plate or piece, I'm now trying to remove the pins. Now, I won't be able to show you this as clearly as I'd like. Move my light over, but I don't think that's really going to help. There's the pins inside. I wonder if you can see that. and there is a kind of a plastic clip that sits over the pin itself, and by forcing this really small screwdriver in, you can actually lift the pin up, or sorry, lift the clip up. I'm really not going to be able to show you. I can hardly see myself. Right, I've now inserted the screwdriver between the pin and the little clip thing, and I'll push down on the pin. Right, my screwdriver's falling out of place. Yeah, and finally the pin is able to be pushed back, and I've only got another, well, I've done 4, I've got another 6 to do, and then hopefully I should be able to pull all the pins out of the plug body. That's another one. I'll come back when the others are done. And after about 10 minutes further effort, I've managed to release the pins in all the pins in this connector, and they can now pull out. In fact, that one just pulled itself out. So we're left with all these lovely pins, which I hope, because I won't have to recrimp them, hopefully I can reinsert these same pins into the plug body that I've got, which I've also got the other half of. And I've established obviously that the female pin plugs in satisfactorily, but also interesting to compare the the male pin that came with these plugs with the factory fitted ones. They are almost identical. After all that, I got the pins all located in this plug body. I'm wondering whether they're all going kind of at an angle. The tips of the pins are kind of touching the sides, and I thought, that's a bit funny. Why should it be doing that? And then I realised, what's the other plug look like? And indeed, what do what's the infill plug look like? The infill plug for this plug looks like this. Looks remarkably like a socket type thing, doesn't it? A receptacle, female pin, if you wish. And yeah, I put the plug body on the wrong side. So the similarities between Molex and Molex seem to be rather weak. I have tried to insert the pins from this side into the proper receptacles, proper plastic housing, and it's even more difficult than it was into this one. So what I've concluded is, you know what, this is a waste of time. Don't bother trying to carry the pins across. So after all of that, I had to give up on reusing the old pins, and I actually fitted new pins with my ratchet crimping tool, which was exactly the thing I've been trying to avoid doing. There obviously are a number of small differences between the pins, even if they look very similar. But yeah, there's obviously quite a big difference in the actual connector, because the body for the equivalent gender looks entirely different. Yeah, so for the side that has the pins, which turns out to be this side, in fact the plug body is, the plug body, which you would think would be this one because it's got the sort of clip thing on top, in fact is the other way round. So to take pins, the style of the plug is exactly the other way round. So that's a piece of logic that went out of the window then. Right, that was fairly quick. 8 mini Molex. And I do tend to find the grippy part on the insulation tends to be a little bit too big to go in the hole in the actual connector body. So I'm just massaging the grip with my pliers here. I think this may be gooder they appear to be, maybe a bit on the cheap side. So you just need to find the body, plug body. And my phone camera, which should tell me what the arrangement should be for this plug. Right, and again we've got colour code duplication. In this case it's green-yellow, occurs twice. Now there's a lot of duplication because of the fly-by-wire throttle, so I think it's duplicated power. They may actually be the same, as well as the same colour code, the same function. So I'm certainly not going to worry about that at this moment. We'll see later on if that proves to be an error. Right, okay, so I'm looking at the back of the plug. Now, which is the back? Okay, use the same logic as this one, because that's a little tag on the thing, but isn't a great big clip. So we're going to go with that way round. Oops, that way round. Okay, first one in. And as I said, it's a very tight fit. Well, the engine harness with its new plugs. Where's the plug? There's the plugs that go into the engine bay, into the cabin down here, and even more clearly, come around the other side. Here we have my adapting cable emerging through the bulkhead. That's obviously up here. And the other ones, which go to the various relays and so on, are in fact down here. So, yeah, that should do it, I think. And yeah, I've mounted an extra fuse box on the side here. This will be behind the dash, which will take care of all the fuses to do with the engine management, including lambda sensors and electronic throttles and so on, will all be fused just in there. Well, it's looking to be quite, well, potentially neat, I should say. But yeah, so these cables and the ECU itself will be mounted just up under here. I'm just waiting for a piece of aluminium to turn up. I can turn into a mounting bracket, so this adapting cable can plug in something like that. If you got as far as this, thanks very much for watching, and in case you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. That would be really encouraging for me. So catch you on the next one.